Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another Total War Warhammer video. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. You see, I have a series which is dedicated to possible characters that could join the Total War Warhammer series. But I want to expand upon that further and look towards possible units. Not so much the Chaos Demons or Kislev, as we more or less know what's coming, but instead Cathay. You see, the Grand Empire of Cathay actually did have models way back in the day. I'm talking 3rd edition, which is actually a fair few years back. They never really had that many models either, but it can be assumed that these old school miniatures will be implemented in some way, shape or form, so I want to cover their lore and their special rules and see how they could be implemented into Total War Warhammer. Today we're going to cover the Temple Dog, so let's read over their lore in the Warhammer Fantasy Armies 3rd edition rulebook. Temple dogs are stone statues found guarding temple entrances in the lands of Nippon and Cathay. They resemble nothing so much as a cross between a giant Pekingese and a lion. In times of war, the power of the temple gods is channeled into these statues to animate them. It is a great honor to mount this divine animal, indicating that the rider has found great favor with the gods. About the size of a horse, the temple dogs retain some of the properties of stone, giving it a very tough skin and tremendous weight. So what we know lore-wise is that the temple dogs are used by both the Nepalese and the Cathayans. This is more or less to be expected given their proximity geographically, very similar as to how the Empire with Estalia and Talia share some very minor similarities. We know that they are quite large, where the lore states that they're about the size of a horse, though we are aware what the base size is, which is 25 by 50 millimeters. So as a tabletop player, I can more or less say a tad smaller than, say for example, a demigryph. That's pretty large and could be quite impressive on the battlefield. But let's start looking towards the special rules of this model, as we'll be able to more or less determine how they would play. Bear in mind, before anything, I am looking at this with an 8th edition mindset. I played from 5th edition up to 8th. 3rd edition was drastically different and I have next to no knowledge on that edition. The first rule is that temple dogs have 1 bite attack and 2 stomp attacks. This obviously means that we know how they will fight on the battlefield. The second rule states, because of their stone-like skin, temple dogs are treated as though they were wearing heavy armor. Translation, this would mean that they would be tough enough on the battlefield with a high armor value and could take a decent amount of punishment. Their third special rule states, their great weight makes temple dogs very efficient at smashing their opponents. They can use this extra weight to give themselves an additional boost when charging. Whenever a temple dog charges into combat, it may fight with a strength of 10 during that round. Okay, simple enough to translate once again. It would have a rather high charge bonus value, which, well, if it's a monster of stone, you could kinda expect that anyway. Their fourth special rule states, all attacks from a temple dog are to be considered magical, in the same way as attacks of demons and elementals. Magical attacks, simple enough to implement, though I fear that this creature would have way too many special rules. Especially once we look towards the 5th special rule. The temple dogs are powerful creatures. Any blows struck by them have a good chance of penetrating armor, so they have armor piercing too. Do you see what I mean? It's a bit much. You would have armor piercing, magical attacks, extra armor durability, a high charge bonus. It might be a bit too overpowered. And the 6th and final special rule is as follows. The temple dog may be ridden by a character, so it could also be a mount option too. Okay, so fair enough, that means that we could possibly have a few variants of this model. Possibly 3 different variants. First off, a pack of temple dogs, or it could even just be a single entity unit, but this would be the baseline standard temple dogs. Honestly, I'm leaning towards a pack of them, in the same number as we would get from Demigryph Knights, as I'm assuming they would more or less have the same functionality. These would be bog standard temple dogs without any riders whatsoever. Secondly, then we would have temple dogs as a mount option for Cathayan characters. More than likely to be used by the melee variant of characters, as obviously this is a melee based mount. You wouldn't want a flimsy spellcaster up close and personal being slaughtered. And lastly, it would be rather interesting if we could have a monstrous version of the temple dog, that of the Grand Temple Dog. This instead would be a much larger single entity unit, more powerful. You see, the temples in Cathay would understandably vary in size, and the temple dogs themselves would vary too, I'm imagining. The smaller temples would have the more common ones, which would be the ones coming in packs and so on, whereas the Grand Temple dogs would be very, very rare. Possibly this could be introduced as a grand unit, so by that I mean that you would need to build some sort of Grand Temple to get access to them. And they would also have some sort of unit cap, cause these massive temple dogs would be far more powerful than the standard, and more or less in the same power level as, say for example, a Dread Saurian, or a Ragnarok Spider probably is the better choice. We could even have two variants of the both in the form of Regiments of Renown, Jade Temple Dogs and Grand Jade Temple Dogs. It kinda writes itself. Of course, the lore might be changed for whatever Cathay ends up becoming in Total War Warhammer. This is from 3rd edition lore, so it's very far back. But what do you think about the Temple Dogs as a possible unit for Cathay? And, before anything, what do you think about this type of series to expand upon further? As there is a few different Cathayan characters and units which barely got expanded upon past 3rd edition I believe, but if you do like these types of videos, I'm more than willing to go back and carry on doing this. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and let's start a bit of a discussion. But with that my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like or even subscribing to the channel as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince and Okro for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel's been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.